there is an ancient and deeply unsettling idea, woven through the hidden currents of Gnosticism. The belief that humanity has forgotten something essential about itself. Not just a forgotten history, a forgotten origin. The ancient Gnostics believed the material world was not the highest reality, but a kind of veil, a dense and distracting layer, obscuring a greater spiritual truth, hidden within humanity itself. According to these traditions, humans carry within them a fragment of divine consciousness, known as the divine spark, or THEOLALITE, a piece of something eternal, a memory of another state of being. And at the centre of this mystery stands one of the most misunderstood figures in the esoteric tradition, Sophia. Sophia was not a goddess in the modern mythological sense. She represented divine wisdom itself, the living intelligence of creation. In many Gnostic texts, Sophia descends from the higher realms into matter, becoming fragmented and trapped within the physical world. Her fall is symbolic of consciousness becoming buried within limitation, forgetfulness, and identity. But the old initiatory traditions often hinted at something even more provocative. But Sophia did not disappear entirely. She became embedded within humanity itself, scattered through bloodlines, memory, intuition, dreams, symbols, and the hidden feminine current that history repeatedly attempted to silence. When you begin examining human civilization through this lens, certain patterns become difficult to ignore. Across thousands of years, patriarchal systems rose to dominance almost everywhere simultaneously. Royal inheritance shifted overwhelmingly toward the father's name, property, titles, blood legitimacy, and historical record-keeping became focused almost entirely upon male descent. Entire dynasties could be tracked through kings and fathers, while the maternal line, the very line through which every human being physically enters existence, slowly faded into obscurity. And yet, biologically, the maternal line is the most stable inheritance humans possess. Before surnames existed, before governments existed, before written law existed, the mother was always certain. Some esoteric researchers believe this historic silencing of matrilineal descent was not merely political but symbolic, an external reflection of Sophia's concealment within the material world. The feminine principle became fragmented, hidden, absorbed into systems that no longer openly recognized it. And with that disappearance came a deeper loss, humanity's connection to origin itself. Because modern people are taught to search for identity externally, passports, census records, nationality, official documents, DNA databases, social labels. But the ancient traditions repeatedly suggest that the truest archive was never outside you. It was within the body itself, encoded silently into blood, cellular memory, and inherited patterns stretching back through countless generations. This is where the idea of the 7 veils of identity emerges within certain esoteric traditions. According to these theories, there once existed 7 core maternal lineages, whose names and identifiers gradually became obscured over centuries through conquest, religious conversion, forced assimilation, political restructuring, and linguistic drift. A sacred title becomes a surname becomes regionalized, a pronunciation shifts, letters change across languages, entire meanings vanish beneath translation. Over time, what were once spiritually significant identifiers became ordinary family names, with no apparent connection to their deeper origins. The concealment was subtle enough that few would ever recognize it happening. And perhaps that was the point, because once identity fragments across enough generations, people no longer know what they are looking at. A symbol becomes a decoration, a ritual becomes superstition, a bloodline becomes paperwork. Yet traces remain. Certain reoccurring phonetic structures, symbols, and naming patterns appear again and again throughout ancient texts, oral traditions, heraldry, and folklore. Some researchers argue these fragments point towards much older systems of identity, rooted not merely in genealogy, but in spiritual function. Whether these theories are literal, symbolic, or somewhere in between, they touch something psychologically powerful inside people. The suspicion that modern identity is incomplete, that something deeper once existed beneath the surface of civilization. And strangely enough, modern biology has opened a door into this conversation in ways ancient mystics could scarcely have imagined. Because while surnames change constantly, mitochondrial DNA does not follow the same rules. Unlike most genetic inheritance, mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, passes through the maternal line. Your mother inherited it from her mother, who inherited it from hers, stretching backward through an unbroken biological chain into deep antiquity. A direct cellular inheritance carried through thousands upon thousands of years. Entire civilizations may collapse, languages may disappear, empires may burn, yet the maternal thread continues silently forward through time. To the ancient Gnostics, this idea would likely have resonated profoundly. Pearl of great price, the hidden divine essence, buried within the chaos of material existence. Something precious, concealed beneath layers of forgetting. Modern genetic genealogy now allows researchers to trace maternal haplogroups across astonishing distances and timescales. Scientists can reconstruct migratory patterns stretching back tens of thousands of years through the inherited information stored within human cells themselves. And this changes the philosophical landscape dramatically, because it suggests that the body remembers, not consciously perhaps, but biologically. The body carries maps older than memory. The convergence between ancient symbolism and modern genetics has caused many researchers, both scientific and esoteric, to reconsider old myths in a new light. Perhaps the ancients encoded profound truths symbolically because they lacked the technological language to describe them directly. Or perhaps symbols themselves were always more powerful than language. Throughout history, sacred knowledge was often hidden within imagery, ritual, and oral tradition, precisely because open transmission became dangerous. Under censorship, conquest, and religious persecution, wisdom survived by disguising itself. The great work, the spiritual transformation of the self, became hidden inside stories, sigils, architecture, embroidery, heraldry, and ritual symbolism. A serpent becomes a symbol of awakened wisdom. A chalice becomes a feminine vessel. A rose represents hidden lineage. 7 stars signify divine fragmentation. A black sun marks concealed illumination. Family crests, that modern people dismiss as decorative, may have once carried entire systems of encoded meaning, understandable only to initiates. Even lullabies, folk tales, and ceremonial phrases may preserve fragments of old spiritual technologies, disguised as harmless tradition. The ancient world understood something modern civilization often forgets. Symbols bypass rational resistance. They communicate directly with the subconscious. And perhaps this is why certain images, names, and myths continue haunting humanity generation after generation, because they are not merely stories, they are memory echoes. This brings us back to Sophia herself. In Gnostic traditions, salvation was never about blind belief, it was about remembrance, awakening, the recovery of divine identity, hidden beneath the illusion of separation. Sophia represents that lost wisdom inside humanity, fragmented, sleeping, yet never fully extinguished. And according to these traditions, the restoration of the feminine principle is not simply social or political, it is spiritual, a restoration of balance, of intuitive alongside intellect, of inner knowing alongside external authority, of creation alongside control. This is why reclaiming forgotten maternal history can have such profound psychological effects upon people. When individuals reconnect with erased ancestry, lost family stories, suppressed cultural roots, or hidden lineages, many experience something deeper than curiosity. They experience reintegration, a feeling that fragmented pieces of identity are returning home. Modern genealogy tools now allow ordinary people to investigate maternal ancestry with extraordinary depth. Mitochondrial DNA testing, historical migration mapping, archival records, oral history preservation, linguistic tracing, and symbolic analysis can all reveal hidden dimensions of family history that previous generations had no ability to access. But perhaps the most important aspect of this search is not external research alone, it is attention. Listening carefully to recurring symbols, dreams, intuitions, astral patterns, unexplained affinities, inherited rituals, and emotional echoes that seem to move silently through family lines. But not all inheritance is material. Some of it is psychological, some cultural, some spiritual, and some may exist in forms we do not yet fully understand. The danger, however, is allowing these ideas to become distorted into fantasies of superiority or exclusivity. That misses the deeper point entirely. The ancient teachings were not about declaring certain people chosen. They were about awakening humanity from forgetfulness. The divine spark belongs to all people. so fear sleeps within all people. And please realize, when I say people, this excludes Clum. Please see my other work about them to understand why. The deeper message is remembrance, not hierarchy. The recovery of what history fragmented. The refusal to allow human identity, especially the feminine thread, woven quietly beneath civilization, to vanish entirely, beneath systems that reduce people to numbers, documents, and official narratives. Because once memory disappears, control becomes easy. And perhaps that is why preserving lineage, story, symbol, and ancestral wisdom matters so deeply. Not to worship the past, but to protect humanity from becoming spiritually rootless in the future. The old Gnostics believed that awakening begins the moment a person realizes they are more than the identity handed to them by the world. That somewhere beneath the noise of civilization, something ancient still remembers who they truly are. And perhaps this is where the journey becomes even more unsettling, because according to many esoteric traditions, humanity is not merely sleeping beneath one illusion, but 7. The ancient mystics spoke symbolically of what they called the 7 veils of illusion, layers of distortion wrapped around human consciousness, separating the individual from direct knowledge of their divine origin. These veils were not always described in exactly the same way across traditions. In some teachings they appeared as planetary spears, in others as energetic seals, spiritual prisons, or psychological barriers placed upon perception itself. I also cover this in my 7 Deadly Sins video, but the core idea remained remarkably consistent. Human beings do not experience reality directly. They experience reality through layers of conditioning, fear, identity, memory, language, trauma, desire, social programming. And until those veils are recognized, the divine spark within remains dormant. The first veil is often described as the veil of matter, the belief that the physical world is all that exists. Modern civilization is deeply trapped within this veil. People are taught from birth that they are merely biological machines drifting through a meaningless universe, that consciousness is accidental, and that existence begins and ends entirely within the material plane. The ancient Gnostics rejected this completely. They believed matter itself was only the outer shell of reality, dense, hypnotic, and deeply convincing, but not the ultimate truth. The second veil is the veil of identity. This is the illusion that the labels given to you are your true self, your nationality, your class, your race, your profession, your political tribe, your legal name. Modern systems encourage people to define themselves entirely through external categories, yet ancient initiatory traditions insisted these were masks worn temporarily by consciousness itself. The real self existed beneath them. This is one reason why so many spiritual traditions involve symbolic rebirth ceremonies. The initiate must first realize that the personality they have constructed is not the totality of what they are. The third veil is the veil of fear, perhaps the most powerful of all. Fear governs entire civilizations. Fear of rejection, fear of death, fear of poverty, fear of isolation, fear of authority, fear of the unknown. A fearful population is predictable, controllable. The ancient mystery schools taught that fear contracts awareness, trapping consciousness into survival mode, where deeper perception becomes almost impossible. To awaken spiritually meant confronting fear directly, not eliminating it entirely, but seeing through its hypnotic power. Because once fear dominates the mind, truth becomes secondary to comfort. The fourth veil is the veil of language. This one is rarely discussed, yet profoundly important. Language shapes thought itself. Words do not merely describe reality, they structure it. Ancient traditions understood this deeply, which is why sacred names, mantras, vibrational formulas, and incantations were treated with such seriousness. Certain words were believed to carry frequencies capable of altering consciousness itself. But language can also imprison. When people lack the words to describe an experience, they often lose the ability to perceive it clearly at all. Modern society increasingly reduces spiritual experience into clinical labels, dismissive terminology, or entertainment. Entire dimensions of human experience become linguistically erased before people can even explore them. The fifth veil is the veil of time. Most people experience themselves as tiny temporary beings, trapped between birth and death, endlessly racing against time's decay. Yet many mystical traditions taught that consciousness itself exists outside linear time. Dreams, intuition, déjà vu, ancestral memory, synchronicities. These experiences hint at a reality where time behaves far less rigidly than modern materialism assumes. The ancient Gnostics believed awakening involved stepping outside the hypnosis of purely linear existence and recognizing oneself as part of something eternal. The sixth veil is the veil of separation. Modern people are taught to experience themselves as isolated individuals, disconnected from nature, each other, and the cosmos itself. But ancient systems repeatedly described reality as fundamentally interconnected. Mind affects body, emotion affects environment, symbols affect consciousness. Human beings affect one another energetically in ways science is only beginning to investigate. The veil of separation convinces people they are alone. The lifting of this veil restores connection. And finally comes the seventh veil, the veil of forgetfulness, the deepest veil, the final barrier between humanity and remembrance. According to Gnostic thought, this is the condition into which humanity was plunged after descending fully into material consciousness. People forget their origin, forget their divine nature, forget the existence of Sophia within themselves. And once a being forgets who they are, they become easy to shape, easy to manipulate, easy to govern. This is why so many esoteric traditions place enormous emphasis upon remembrance rather than worship. Salvation was not about obedience alone. It was about awakening from amnesia, remembering what had been buried beneath generations of illusion. And perhaps this is why ancient myths repeatedly describe initiates descending into darkness before emerging transformed. The underworld journey, the labyrinth, the cave, the black forest, the descent beneath the earth, These are all symbolic representations of consciousness entering the layers of illusion before reclaiming the hidden spark within. Sophia waits at the center of that journey, not externally, internally. The fragmented wisdom hidden beneath the veils. And perhaps the most fascinating aspect of all this is how modern life seems almost perfectly designed to strengthen those veils continuously. Constant distraction, endless noise, artificial identity, fear-based media, information overload, emotional exhaustion. The ancient mystics warned that a civilization trapped entirely within illusion would eventually forget even the possibility of awakening. And yet, despite everything, human beings continue searching. They search through ancestry, through dreams, through spirituality, through symbols, through art, through forbidden history, through meditation, through altered states of consciousness, through the strange feeling that something important has been forgotten. That instinct itself may be the divine spark trying to awaken beneath the weight of the veils. Because according to the old teachings, Sophia was never truly lost, only hidden, waiting patiently for humanity to remember itself once more.